let's jump in. We only have like a few updates today, but lots of great things in the making. So if you, Aiden, I can pass the mic off to you. Do you have the agenda that I shared earlier open? Okay, fabulous, sweet. So yeah, we'd love to let's get started maybe with chit chatting a little bit about. I know this is out of order from what I wrote, but let's hear what's going on with ICS right now and the liquid staking module. I know we've been talking about this for a pretty good amount of time at this point. People are excited to hear where we stand with that.
With ICS, both proposals have passed. Stride did its first testnet on June 7th. The second testnet was supposed to happen yesterday, but there was a small bug in ICS found by the Haifa testnet team. It's the whole reason we do testnets. So we pushed it back a week so that we could fix the bug and hopefully have a successful testnet next Wednesday. Haifa only does testnets on Wednesday. So the final testnet has been pushed back to July 5th, and we're going to do that next Wednesday. And then the actual onboarding is July 19th. So it's a Wednesday in the middle of July. And then we'll do the changeover on that day. And then the 450,000 Atom, the protocol and liquidity, has that prop also passed. So those Atom are in the Atom Accelerator DAO's wallet. And I think they're going to go and LP the Statum Atom on the past report on Neutron sometime early next week. So I think it just takes them like a few steps to do everything operationally, but yeah, it sounds like they're going to do that soon, which is super cool. And I think we also released a blog post talks about ICS, although I haven't read it yet. Have you read that one, Summer?
Yeah, actually, I have. I think the ICS blog post, it's actually a great resource for people, I think, especially who have no familiarity with the concept whatsoever. It's very accessible, I think, to someone who maybe is just like heard of Stride and liquid staking and like thinks it's cool, but can definitely learn a lot about like the significance of the transition that we're going through from it in a way that is understandable. Yeah, I would recommend everybody check it out, even if you are already an expert in this topic, because it's nice to have like kind of shared language to use when discussing it. I'll drop the link. Let me pull it up. But yeah, that's really awesome to hear, Aiden. I'm glad that there's some progress and some exciting dates to come in the future. So looks like we're officially going to be joining the Atom Economic Zone on that day, July 19th, when everything goes live. What are the implications of that? Kind of on like a broader level, I think it maybe like kind of bridging that sort of understanding of like, I guess like what is that true position that we'll take as part of this zone? What does that mean?
Yeah, so when we switch over, I think we've talked about this a lot, but the Stride validator set will be replaced by the Cosmos Hub validator set, and then the Stride validators will become governors. So from an end user perspective, like I don't expect anyone to actually notice any changes on July 19th. If you go on Kepler and you want to like stake your Stride, you'll still see the same Stride validators, and they'll probably even be called Stride validators on Kepler's front end, but under the hood, they won't actually be running validators. So from a user perspective, you actually shouldn't really notice any differences. It should feel exactly the same. But from a security perspective, the Stride blockchain becomes much more secure. So it has something like $2 billion of economic security rather than whatever it has now, probably like less than $100 million. So that's the main difference. And then on the LSM side, we'll just briefly touch on that as well. There's been a lot of work to get this code shipped. So on the Stride side, the code is mostly ready. So Stride will be able to accept LSM deposits and mint ST Atom once it's live on the hub. And the hub there's a bunch of things the hub needs to do to release new code. So it needs to be reviewed by the informal team and the SDK team, and it needs to go through a testnet. So all these things, like the code is done and it's going through all these final release steps. Like when you have a massive blockchain like the Cosmos Hub, there's just lots of teams that collaborate, and the release process can be a bit slower than maybe like some other smaller chains. So that I think will be live around the end of July. So by the end of July, hopefully we'll have ICS and LSM live, which will be super exciting because I would say these have been the biggest things that a lot of people across Stride and many other teams have been working on for the past few months.
Awesome. Yeah, that's exciting. We'll definitely put these on the public calendar now that we know like this like well we've known about the July 19th, but I think it'll be cool to kind of start showing that to everybody through our socials and getting people excited. Which, speaking of which, is kind of connected to an event that we've got coming up called Stride Week. Aiden, do you want to share a little bit about like what Stride Week might look like or what the intention behind Stride Week is?
Can you actually? I think you've been more plugged into this. Do you mind sharing something?
Oh, okay, cool. Well, then, yeah. Well, so I've only been able to be a part of just like one conversation yesterday with John on our team about this, but it sounds like John is putting together a week ultimately to celebrate the transition to ICS. Stride Week's going to take place from July 10th to July 14th, so just in the week before the actual launch. During this week, it's going to be a time where I think lots of just kind of interesting educational pieces are going to come out from John on Twitter. He's going to, I think, be creating some threads that are sort of a bit more illuminating to the community about what this is and what this means and how people can sort of contribute to the project at this point with this new change. But also, like within that week, just lots of, I think, Stride-centered media to come out. One thing we did talk about, though, is we're planning some events within the server, which are going to be pretty cool. More details to come on that, but it's looking like we're going to be having a contest of some creative, awesome sort, and the prize pool will be will already consist of so far some bad kids and specifically stable coins, because that's what is best to give out as prizes. But yeah, ultimately, that's what we got coming up. That's all that I know about it, though. So it's cool that this is something that's in progress right now. We hope to see as many people participating that week as possible. I think it'll be cool. But yeah, just a time to celebrate the changes and the growth that we're going through.
Yep. And I think we're not even going to call it Stride Week on Twitter. Like on Twitter, people are mostly just going to notice like there's going to be a lot of content. There's going to be a rebrand. ICS is coming, so it'll kind of just come in like bits and pieces. But of course, you guys get the alpha and the internal name Stride Week.
Yeah, so look out for something something special related to all of that this week. There will definitely be a contest involved, though, so we hope that you choose to participate in that. Let's talk a little bit about the liquidity incentives program. Aiden, I know this is round 3 of the program. What changes have been made to the program for this round? What does that mean for users right now?
Yeah, so I do not have the latest details on this, although I believe there was a slight there will be a slight reduction in STRD incentives based on the blog post. I think the reasoning is once there is ST Atom Atom protocol on liquidity on Astroport on Neutron, ST Atom Atom will naturally have more liquidity depth, so it won't require quite as many incentives. Other than that, no huge changes.
I'm gonna drop the link so you guys have all the details that you could need about this if you're interested in more. And yeah, it's going to go into effect on July 7th, so keep that date in mind. What's going on? I would love to hear some ST asset updates. I know that ST Juno is now on Umi, and ST Atom is now, or is it already on Terra, or is it set to be on Terra?
Yeah, I haven't checked, but ST Atom I think will be live on Terra very soon. ST Juno is now a collateral option on Umi. So this has been basically what happened was the Juno community voted to have protocol and liquidity for Juno ST Juno. So that liquidity pool on Osmosis now has sufficient depth. I think it's something like $1 to $2 million US in order to support ST Juno as a collateral option on Umi. So that was another kind of cool thing to see. I think overall, like protocol and liquidity is pretty exciting because it's much more sustainable. like these community pools can just deposit liquidity, and the liquidity can stay there forever. And then you can have all these nice things like lending and borrowing and trading.
What would cause the community to like withdraw liquidity?
Hard to say. It's I mean, one thing that could happen is there could be like a loss of confidence in Stride or Umi, like one of the platforms that they're supporting with this protocol and liquidity. But as long as that doesn't happen, I don't really see a reason for them to withdraw it. I guess like the alternative is the tokens just sit in the community pool, and that's like not super exciting for anyone. But if you instead take the community pool and then you use the community pool to create liquidity for these tokens, then you can enable lending and borrowing on lending market.
Okay, that makes sense. Hey, I see a question from Moons in the chat. Why were the ST Luna incentives reduced so heavily? Is this because Terra's market has been such a tough nut to crack?
Yeah, this is a good question. I was not personally so involved in this decision, so I don't have the exact reasoning, but I think it is a mix of a couple things. I think one is it's a little bit unclear like exactly what's going on in Luna right now, or in the Terra ecosystem. I think they're kind of figuring things out. And yeah, like you said, it's been kind of a tough nut to crack, tough to figure out exactly like where SC Luna should be used in that ecosystem. There's also a lot of competition. I think we've talked to people in that community, and we've talked to them about how Stride is different from some of the competitors in that ecosystem. Many of the competitors are smart contract based. They don't have like the same safety features. There's often a multi-sig or even a single admin key involved. But I don't know if that's landed with quite as well as we'd hoped. The other thing is, I think there is protocol and liquidity being worked on in that ecosystem as well. I haven't followed this one as closely, but I heard about this initiative from a few people. So it's a mix of those things. Like you said, Moons, it's a tough nut to crack. It's a little bit confusing, like how some of how Stride has been received, and then there's also protocol and liquidity in the works. And then I see there's this other question: are we going to see SCQG before end of summer? I don't know. That's a good question. I think SCQG would be super interesting. I haven't chatted with their team about this, but it basically depends on the Kujira team. If they are willing to make it happen, then it can happen.
What would the process for them be if they want to onboard and then go through like the traditional like integration?
Yeah, there's a public doc that we send around. Anyone can look at it to see the onboarding process. There's like a bunch of prerequisites for the chain. I'm not sure if Kujira meets these prerequisites, but they need like certain parameters enabled. They need like interchain accounts turned on, all these things, super basic stuff. And then in addition to that, there's a pretty rigorous testing process that we have before we onboard chains. The reason is like we want to make extra sure that if a chain is onboarded, everything's going to work smoothly. So there's lots of local testing that we do before we hit mainnet. And this is typically what the other teams work on when they when they help to onboard a token. They'll come and they'll like test everything locally. They'll spin up test nets. They'll show the Stride contributors the results of these test nets. And then if everything looks good, then we can move on to mainnet. But we are in contact with Kujira, so I'll talk to the Kujira team about this. And then I see there's two more questions. What's the plan with Neutron? SC Atom Atom is going to be live on Neutron soon, so we're going to continue working closely with them. I think Stride and Neutron are very aligned. And then I don't know what this like various staking rewards thing is. I don't know what Philip from Eris was mentioning exactly. I'm not sure what this.
Yeah, feel free to elaborate on that question, Jabba. I see you typing. Feel free to elaborate, but in the meantime, Aiden, did you want to quick debrief on Airdrop Season 6, which is now live?
Yeah, so Airdrop Season 6 is live. This might be from these claim rates might be outdated. I see they're from last week, but the claim rates are pretty high. Like basically all of the testnet airdrop has been claimed. And with the other chains, it's like somewhere 60, 70, 80% range. I think the multiple rounds of airdrops has been working out well, or people seem to be coming back and claiming, which is cool to see. Means more decentralization for Stride and more distribution of the Stride token. Yeah, airdrop season 6 is live. Other airdrop seasons are lower than 6. They've like launched at different times, so but they're all live.
Yeah, I see one question in the chat. Thank you for going through that, by the way, Aiden. Are we going to consider incentivizing ST-Eng?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think ST-Eng has some protocol and liquidity as well, from some of the injective ecosystem folks. So I'm not sure if it's required right now, but definitely something to keep an eye on and to think about.
Thanks, Aiden, for walking us through kind of all the updates going on in the Stride world right now. I'm definitely super excited about the transition to ICS that's coming up. I know that's like our hottest topic. But yeah, in the meantime, it looks like there are no more questions in the chat. So I'm gonna like say going once. If you have any questions, feel free to offer. Thank you, Jabba. Please share your question. But yeah, this will be the last call for questions. I also see ST, Axlar,
Yeah, it's a good question. So far, we've mostly been focused on deploying LSTs in the Cosmos ecosystem because the onboarding process is so much more straightforward. Like it really takes like a couple of hours to deploy a new Cosmos LST. Whereas to deploy on Ethereum, we'd need either IBC on Ethereum, or we'd need to rewrite the protocol and work with Axlar's GMP or some other IBC substitute. So it's a very interesting like sort of research question. But I think it's probably a ways away, just given all the technical challenges and also the competition on Ethereum.
Moons is asking, why do you think Lido decided to launch on Neutron instead of launching their own app chain? Great question.
Moons, have you seen like a launch announcement from Lido? Yeah, I don't know what Lido's doing. Obviously, they're not going to tell us because if they do come and launch like LI Atom, they're going to be competing, so they don't want to leak the alpha to their competitors. So I'm not really sure what Lido's plan is. I don't know if they're going to launch on Neutron or not launch at all. It's just hard to say. I think about a year ago they had a post on Lido's research forum where they talked about launching on top of Neutron. And obviously the Neutron team is from P2P and Lido is also from P2P, so there's a lot of like team overlap. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what Lido's plan is. I also, yeah, I don't know why they chose to launch on Neutron versus an app chain. Obviously, I have a very biased perspective that launching an app chain in Cosmos makes much more sense because we actually launched an app chain. Like I could tell you all these reasons why you should launch an app chain and not something with smart contracts. But it'd be actually really interesting to hear from Lido why they chose not to do that, because they're a really smart and competent team. So I'm sure they have good reasons for it. I just don't know what they are personally.
Yeah, and I see Moon says app chains just seem so much more powerful and less limited. Well, thanks for that question. I do hope that we get to hear from the Lido team soon about that, because yeah, I think it's interesting. It's always interesting to hear the philosophy of like why a project will come to the conclusions that it comes to for what it's doing next. But I think this will be the last question that we take. Thank you, Jabba. And so Jabba says, okay, Kujira related again, kind of a fanboy over here. We love that for you. I've been following some discussions about why Statum Atom Pool and Kujira is not incentivized. One argument often given by Stride is that they have to pick between chains and Kujira always falls out of the boat. Now I was wondering if that isn't a bit unfair given how much use cases the ecosystem offers for ST Atom and other ST assets. Don't really want a discussion about this, but just give your opinion if you're comfortable doing that, Aiden.
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like I'm not going to be able to give a satisfying answer here. I am not super close to the incentive discussions, so it's a bit hard for me to give you the exact reasoning. Might be a better question for John or Riley on our team. Yeah, sorry, very, very unsatisfying, but I'm not going to be able to give you a super detailed answer. I do think Kujira is a very very cool and exciting platform. And you're right, it does have lots of very interesting DeFi features.
I like what you said, Moons. I do agree that it would be cool to have John on a FireStride chat sometime. He definitely has some really, really intriguing takes, and I'm sure he would have a lot to say in response to this question as well. So yeah, I can even, these agendas that we have, I do keep track of the questions that are asked in here, and I can pass this along to the rest of the team, see kind of what that conversation looks like. You guys can always feel free to ask questions like this in the general chat or wherever you want to start the conversation. But yeah, I think we can conclude there if you're down, Aiden. You're not the same Aiden from the calc team?
I'm not, although I have met that Aiden before, but I'm not the same one.
But all right, cool. Well, Aiden, thank you so much for joining me up here. What you got going on for the rest of the day?
I am gonna hop off and talk to the Time Wave team. So they were building the interchain allocator. The Stride team got a grant from the Atom Accelerator DAO to build this trustless way to do protocol and liquidity. So I'm gonna hop over and talk to them. Hopefully they have some cool updates. I'll share those next FireStride Chat.
Well, can't wait. All right, thanks, Aiden. Have a great rest of your day, and same to you, everybody else. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day wherever you are. See you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.